when thinking of kinship guardianship, we know that on a national level, for every one child in foster care with relatives, there are 19 children being raised by grandparents or other relatives outside the foster care system. In New Mexico, 11% of grandparents are raising their grandchildren. The Con Alma Health Foundation found in 2017, they were looking at why there is this lack of parental involvement. And they found that it's linked to substance abuse, incarceration, divorce, mental health diagnosis, military deployment, and domestic violence. And so with domestic violence, that's the theme for our training today. We know that 1 in 15 children are exposed to intimate partner violence each year, and 90% of these children are eyewitnesses to this violence. So I was kind of curious what it looks like in New Mexico, and I found this report from 2010. So it's a little outdated, but it's still more current statistics. So in 2010, the New Mexico law enforcement looked at domestic violence metrics, and they found that there were 19,587 incidents of domestic violence. And of those, 6,787 children were reported to be at the scene. 37% reported an injury to the victim, and 64% of them reported an injury to the child. And just to clarify, that's 64% of the 6,787. So what is domestic violence? Domestic violence is one person in a relationship having power and control over the other person. So looking at power control, we have some red flags here. Power and control can look like threats and coercion. It can look like intimidation. It can look like emotional abuse. It can look like isolation, minimizing, denying, blaming, using children, using privilege, and economic abuse. Oops. So in 1984, the Domestic Abuse Intervention Project actually they came up with what's called the power and control wheel. And as I just discussed, all these different areas are red flags in terms of, what power and control looks like in a relationship. But they went through and they identified, provided a better description of each of these areas. Now, however, this is written in 1984, so they kind of have this this dynamic in their language where it's the abuser is a male, the victim is a female, but really it can go both ways. It can be, male to female, female to male, male to male, female to female. But really, the most important thing is thinking how is the abuser using these tactics towards the victim? So for example, under using isolation, the abuser would control what the victim does, who they see, who they talk to, what they read, where they go, limiting their outside involvement. They might use jealousy to justify actions. So you can go through here and kind of see all the different descriptions for each of these red flags. And so really thinking about, how does this relate to and impact kinship care? So kinship guardians may provide a safe place for the children to live short or long term, but this also might include the kinship guardian advocating for the victim to leave an abusive situation. So how do you support somebody who's in an abusive relationship? You can educate yourself. You can let your loved one know you're concerned. You can listen and support their decisions. You can encourage small steps. And I think just remembering when somebody is in such an intense situation, you know, and maybe it's a situation that's gone on for a long period of time, you know, take going from, you know, 0 to 60 is going to be very threatening. So these small steps, you know, and being there and supporting them is really going to be the 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 right way to support them, and also helping find options specific to their needs. And for you, especially if you're supporting somebody, practicing that self-care is going to be crucial as well. So what are the effects of domestic violence on children? Exposure to traumatic events affects everybody differently. Some children may experience feelings of being fearful, anxious, and on guard. And this kind of looks a little different depending on the age group. So, for children who are like preschool age, you might see some regressive behaviors happening. So, you might see bedwetting, thumb sucking, this increased crying, whining. They also might have issues like staying asleep. They might, you know, show signs of like that anxiousness as well. Um, and they might also present with like some intense separation anxiety. For school age children, you this is where we kind of see some like guilty behaviors coming out. They might blame themselves. Um, they also might have a lower self-esteem due to witnessing the domestic violence. They might not be participating in activities that or getting good grades like they used to. So you might see like a dip in their performance at school. They might have fewer friends, or they might get into trouble more. They might be like acting out. They also tend to show a lot of signs of maybe having like headaches or stomach aches, so some like physical symptoms. For teenagers who witness abuse, they might act out in negative ways. They might be engaging in fighting, either with family members or other teens. They might be skipping school. You could see that maybe if the exposure to domestic violence has been really impacting on them, you could see this like intense in their own risky behaviors. So maybe they're drinking, using drugs. They also might show, kind of like school age children, signs of having a lower self-esteem. And then also too for boys, you see maybe the more likely to get in trouble with the law. And then for girls, I mean, so boys are typically boys are the ones, the teenage boys are the ones that are acting out more. So you see them more involvement with like issues in school, like for like physical violence or, getting into arguments with staff, getting into arguments with their guardians. And for teenage girls, they're more likely to be withdrawn and experience depression. And if you're interested in any of this information, I did put the link at the bottom. This came from womenshealth.gov, and there's a whole section on relationships and safety. So, in thinking of long-term effects of trauma on health, children who witness or are victims of emotional, physical, or sexual abuse, they are at a higher risk for health problems as adults. Through the Center for Disease and Health, they've also found links to depression, anxiety, low self-esteem, diabetes, obesity, heart disease, and other problems in adults linked back to childhood trauma. So the goal, which is why you're all here, this evening is to create resilient children and to create a resilient family. So the first step as these children are coming into your homes is to create safety. This diagram is called Maslow's hierarchy of need. Abraham Maslow was a psychologist, and he studied what motivates people, or what do people need in order to be all they can be, achieving what they want, living their life dreams. And so if you look at the bottom, he kind of has built like what everybody needs from the ground up. The first level of this is physiological needs: air, water, food, shelter, sleep, clothing, reproduction. The second step in this foundation is safety. This is our personal safety, employment, resources, health, property. So when these children are coming into our homes that have been exposed to traumatic situations or traumatic environments, those first three are super crucial. The third one is love and belonging. This is friendship, intimacy, family, sense of connection. And as you can see, when our physiological and our safety needs are not met, we can't really be thinking about the bigger picture for our lives, whether we're children or whether we're adults. If you're a second grade student who's been through a traumatic situation and has been placed into a different home, worrying about a math grade when you're super, like when your safety needs are not met, for example, is really just it's not appropriate and it's not fair for them. And they're going to struggle. It's the school piece isn't even in the bigger picture. The first piece of getting them their physiological and their safety needs met. And then the love and belonging. And this is where all of you as kinship guardians are coming in. You're providing those physiological needs for them. You're providing the safety needs, letting them know that they're safe and they have a safe home. There's consistency in their schedules, and then letting them know that they're very loved and they belong. And then the fourth step here is building esteem, which includes respect, self-esteem, their status, recognition, strength, and freedom. And then as a person is growing in all of these ways and has this beautiful foundation set up for themselves, that's when you can actually be in this place of what Maslow refers to as self-actualization. So this is this desire to become the most that one can be. So at this point, when you are a whole human, you're able to actually think about your dreams, versus again, when you're at level one, thinking about is your food and housing situation stable? You can't really be thinking about your lifelong goals. So just to put really in context, and this is a good kind of tool, I think, to really be thinking about these children as they're coming into your home, where they're at. If you're also supporting and trying to support their bio parents, maybe thinking about where they're at as well. So the next piece of really creating these resilient children and resilient families is creating healthy boundaries for the children that have been in abusive situations or exposed to abusive situations. Helping them know how to create their own boundaries, what healthy relationships are like, is absolutely crucial for them, because our goal here is to prevent them from, having any other exposure to unhealthy situations. So just like we looked at the power and control wheel, pardon me, the Domestic Abuse Intervention Project also created a wheel of equality. And I love this because this tells us and really kind of hits the point home, what a healthy relationship looks like. And so again, the big pieces of a healthy relationship include non-threatening behavior. So talking and acting so that the other person feels safe and comfortable expressing themselves and doing things that they like, having that respect. So listening to the other person non-judgmentally, being emotionally affirming and understanding and valuing each other's opinions. There's the trust and support. So this is supporting each other's goals. And it's almost written in like, because again, this comes from like an older kind of paradigm. And so this is written more for like a couple, but I think within every relationship, whether it's a romantic relationship, a friendship, relationships with their family members, relationships with your children, these are things that you can be showing and teaching them. So that trust and support piece is huge. There's also honest and accountability, responsible parenting, so sharing parental responsibilities, being a positive, nonviolent role model for the children, having shared responsibility, so mutually agreeing on a fair distribution of work, and making family decisions together. And then there's economic partnership. So this is, again, making money decisions together, making sure both partners benefit from this financial arrangement. So the next step in creating these resilient children and resilient families is utilizing a support system. And this is where you can think for yourself in your family situation as these children have come into your home. Who's the child's positive support system, but also who's yours? And you can kind of think like, is there any ways that you can be building a more supportive support system for yourselves and for your children and for the family? Are there close friends that you can call on for yourself? Is your child involved with friendships as well? And then thinking in terms of community, like, are you connected to your neighborhood? Are you connected to your community? And if not, how can you become more connected? Because sometimes it just takes researching and finding new avenues and new groups of people to involve in your life. The last thing on here is seeking professional help. Clearly, for any children that have gone through and been a witness to domestic violence, or any children that have suffered any type of abuse, you're not alone. You can get professional help to be supporting the child as they're maybe transitioning into your home, into your lifestyle. But then also too, does the family in a bigger picture need any support? If you already have children and you're bringing other children into your family, that might be an adjustment. So it might not be like a level 10 crisis that you need some professional help. It might just be, hey, we're bringing in additional children, and now my partner and I are feeling overwhelmed. And so getting that extra support is always a benefit. So going back in terms of thinking about our children, when we're thinking about safety, we're thinking about attachment. And so the 4 kind of pillars of attachment are patterned, predictable, repetitive, and attuned responses. So this is where you as caregivers are really just creating this structure. You're creating patterned routines for them that are super predictable. They know every morning the family wakes up together. The family has breakfast together. Everybody gets ready. They go to school. When they come home, they know if they have a snack, if they have to do homework, if they have playtime, what time, then there's dinner. And then, then maybe you guys do a fun family activity together. whatever that looks like, really creating these like structured routines for these children is super, it's just like super therapeutic for them, because a lot of them are used to maybe some chaotic situations that they've been in before. And so you providing this like structured routine is really creating, it's helping actually on a neurological level to create like this emotional stability for them. So when we're thinking about resiliency, some resiliency factors include this caring, stable relationship. It includes clear, consistent, predictable structures. One other thing is stories of overcoming adversity. This is where you can, if you're working with like, or if you're caring for younger children, maybe reading them stories where the character has overcome an adversity and is helping to show them like, even though we face adversity, we can come through it triumphantly. Um, Another thing is just this acknowledgement of what they've gone through and letting them know like, hey, I know you're having a hard day, but I'm here with you and I'm not going anywhere. And then opportunities to help others. We all know that in the work that we do, and I think you kinship caregivers are perfect examples. And while, of course, you know, whether it's a family member or a friend that you're caring um, for the of their children, this opportunity for you to help others just really creates a bigger life purpose, you know. And so teaching our children how to and letting them have this opportunity to help others is just huge. So one of our favorite quotes is by Dr. Bruce Perry, and he says, there is no more effective neurobiological intervention than a safe relationship. So again, as these children who have been in rough environments, rough situations, exposed to really intense and chaotic lifestyles, perhaps, they're coming into your home and their brains are a little overstimulated, maybe their behaviors are really intense, and you're providing this safe relationship and you're allowing them to join in your space, and through that creating that safe relationship is helping calm down their nervous system, letting them become stable. And as you know, I'm sure you've seen when your kids are kind of going through maybe you know, having an intense behavior where they're overwhelmed, you know, they kind of peak, maybe it's a tantrum, they're crying, and then it kind of goes down. But for you, the best thing you can do throughout this is be the stable force. And as you're continuing to maintain your stability and your through this event, you're natural, they will naturally attune to you. It takes time. It's a you know, we're retraining their nervous systems in a way. So the other thing too is that we are here ready to help. So if you feel, you know, if as you're working with the children that have come into your care, if you need some additional supports, I know that you work with our CSWs. Please let us know. We can help get you set up with any type of services that you may need. And it doesn't have to be a long-term thing. Maybe it's like a short-term thing as these children are adjusting to your new homes, or maybe for yourself as a caregiver, maybe you just need a safe place just to get, you know, deal with your overwhelm, and practice some self-care. So again, if you're ever needing any additional supports, we're so here to help you with that. And the last thing I have for you is just a bunch of resources. We went through one of our CSWs, Jessica Ortega, put together a bunch of resources for victims and survivors. So I'm just going to leave this here for just a minute. If you have any, if you would like for me to share any of these with you, just let me know. And also we can put these on our website for you. So you can check back on our website and see, but we have resources for victims and survivors. And then we have, we also have resources for domestic violence resources for children and teens. And we also have resources for men. And again, if you need any support, feel free to reach out to us at fosteringfamily.com. But also too, I'm here if you have any questions or if there's any resources I can help guide you to as well.